Even a small and seemingly insignificant action can trigger dramatic and profound change, for better and for worse. Usually, it's both. Such is the case with Destin Harbor, the prized nautical and imbibing hub of Destin, Florida. Destin Harbor was originally called the Old Pass Lagoon. Way back then, the pass connecting Destin Harbor to the Gulf of Mexico wasn't on the west end of the lagoon at all, where we see it today. It was actually at the east end of the lagoon, where Sandpiper Cove sits today. But all that changed in 1926. A large and prolonged storm system dumped tremendous rainfall on the Panhandle. Water levels in Choctawhatchee Bay had risen to the breaking point, threatening local homes, farms, and businesses. Flooding had been a recurring problem, making life here very difficult. So, Dewey Destin Sr. and a few of his old fishing buddies began to study the currents in the bay and in the Gulf. They hatched a crazy plan to help alleviate the flooding. It was a plan that would change Destin forever. Armed with shovels and boat oars, the small but determined band of engineer wannabes began to dig a small trench in the hopes of bleeding off a little of the floodwaters out into the vast Gulf of Mexico. But the immense pressure of the overcapacity bay was more powerful than they ever could have imagined. Their small trench exploded, and Choctawhatchee Bay poured out into the Gulf of Mexico, leveling a small forest in the process. The original pass was closed by shifting sands, and so the new Destin Pass, as we know it today, was created, much to the bewilderment of a few stunned fishermen. Today, Destin Harbor encompasses about 209 acres with an average depth of 15 to 20 feet. The harbor is encapped by Noriego Point, a long, thin, ever-shifting white sand peninsula located at the very tip of Gulf Shore Drive on what is known as Holiday Isle. On one side of Noriego Point is Destin Harbor, while on the other, rock jetties corral boats and dolphins alike out into the vast and beautiful Gulf of Mexico. In 1979, a young fishing charter boat captain named Charles Morgan decided to try his hand at the restaurant and bar business. From personal experience, he knew the local fishermen craved ice-cold beer and fresh oysters after a long, hard day's work at sea. He opened a little place called Harbor Docks.
Harbor Docks opened on July 4th, 1979, and the main reason I think we opened it was so that we would have a place to drink beer. We had to go to Fort Walton. There was just nothing here. There were, I think, 3 or 4 condominiums on Holiday Isle, and the season was strictly summer, and the people that fished on the charter boats were real fishermen. They weren't like tourists. They liked to fish and liked to catch fish. We've been a place where when boats get back from fishing, they go to the bar and have a drink and they talk to each other, and that's how people find out what's biting, where it's biting, what's happening in the Gulf of Mexico.
In addition to a welcoming plank for local fishermen to swap the day's tall tales, Morgan figured out early on that removing the middleman from the sale of the fresh catch meant better accessibility to high-quality seafood for consumers and more money in the pockets of his hard-working fishermen friends.
Cobia fishing, we had a big hand in popularizing cobia fishing. We started the World Championship Cobia Tournament. There was 4 of us sitting around the sushi bar up here at Harbor Docks, and I suggested the tournament, and they said, well, I don't think we can call it the Cobia World Championships. I said, well, I've already trademarked the name. And over 20 years, the cobia fishing here in late March through April and early May was spectacular. Kids of fishermen are sitting up at that bar right now where their dads sat, and sometimes where their granddads sat. We've always liked to think that we're not located in the heart of Destin, that we are the heart of Destin. This has been a special place for a long time.
If we had the power to stop time, to freeze it precisely where we want it, this is probably the moment when most true locals would like to return. Set the DeLorean time machine dial and just enjoy Destin Harbor, forever trapped in a moment of cheap beer, fresh raw oysters, and enough tall tales to last lifetimes. But of course, that's not how it works. Time plays according to her own schedule, independent of our romanticized whims and wishes. Today, Destin Harbor is no longer that sleepy little drinking place with a fishing problem. 19 companies now have official permits to conduct business along the harbor, including rental places with a combined fleet of over 400 personal watercraft and pontoon boats, which can be seen bumping along pier posts like a carnival float ride. 75 commercial charter fishing boats still hustle to hold Destin's title of the world's luckiest fishing village. Packed with bars and family-friendly activities, Harbor Walk Village and Destin Harbor Boardwalk span a half-mile along the edge of Destin Harbor. The never-boring boardwalk now bustles with tourists every day, year-round. But if you look hard enough, you can still find the old Destin Harbor here. Pelicans and herons still loiter along the docks here, waiting for their favorite fishing captain to return, hopefully with a little excess catch. There are public parks, including Captain Royal Melvin Heritage Park. Captain Royal was born in 1940 to Destin pioneers Captain Pete Millard and Sarah Melvin. At the age of 18, he became Destin's youngest U.S. Coast Guard licensed captain, a feat that was unheard of, and he officially joined Destin's charter fishing fleet. In 1965, Royal caught what is known as Destin's very first Grand Slam. That's when you catch a blue marlin, a white marlin, and a sailfish, all in a single day and all on the same fishing trip. Royal reeled in his second Grand Slam in 1967 and then his third in July of 1977. His record of 3 Grand Slams still holds today, according to the archives. Destin royalty, indeed.
The traditional fish here have been red snapper and grouper. The bill fishing really started when Royal Melvin caught the first blue marlin out here. This harbor, I think it is the gem of this town. Our heritage is fishing, and that's what we need to hang on to.
The park in his name is just east of Dewey Destin's Harborside Restaurant, which serves fresh baskets of delicious Gulf seafood, all in the name of the town founder. Change is inevitable, as the tired but invariably true cliche goes. Perhaps the past was better, or maybe it wasn't. Stirred in with all the other tall tales of grand slams and broken lines, I'm pretty sure there were still a few crusty old coots back then who liked to sit along the bar and gripe about days gone by. We fondly reminisce about all the good stuff in our memories, while forgetting about the struggles and the hardships in the fog of time. My grandfather never got past 8th grade. At the age of 17, he snuck into the Navy, not even knowing how to swim, something he would carefully hide during his decades of Navy service. Granddad once told me, there are only 2 good ships in the whole damn Navy. The one you served on before, and the one you're about to be transferred to. One day, I suspect, 50 years from now, today's fishing charter captains, pontoon pilots, and beach bar bartenders will probably talk about how these were the good old days. And you know what? They're probably right. We just don't know it yet. Cheers.